And welcome. This is CBC Alumni Focus. I'm the Alumni Director, Rob Staggenborg, and really excited to have one of my colleagues on today's show, Tom Eichwald, class of '07. And we made a joke the other day that he will be forever known in CBC Alumni as Tom Eichwald '07 because the number comes with your name. So welcome to the show, Tom.
Thanks, Rob. Great to have you, and nice to see all of your face instead of just seeing what's behind this as we normally do around the halls.
Although we're still in that area. I was at a place today and they're like, hey, where's your mask? I was like, well, the president kind of said, but that's another show for another time. But
True.
How long have you been here back at CBC now, first of all? Let's start.
This is year 10 I'm wrapping up, which is really, really hard to believe.
Wow. So, and tell us, you're in charge of the religion department.
Well, so I'm director of mission and ministry. So campus ministry is kind of under me, although Ed Hamer, our campus minister, does most of the retreat type stuff. I do the service program, faculty LaSallian formation. I'm also teaching a few classes in the religion department, a few other odds and ends.
So what's it like to be back? I mean, I always like to ask that question because everyone has a different experience at CBC as a student,
right?
But then to come back as like one of the adults in charge, like, wow.
Yeah, well, so I was expecting the weird thing to be calling my teachers by first names, Mr. Ryan becoming Gary. It was very weird for me. Yeah. Dr. Doley never became Jim and never will, but that was actually quite easy. You know what was the weirdest thing that I never expected was when I hit year 5 as a teacher, and you realize, okay, my primary experience of this place is now, on this side of the desk. I'm a teacher here that also happened to go here, as opposed to a guy who went here who's now, it was a subtle shift, but it was kind of a cool moment of realizing that, okay, this is a new phase in my experience of CBC, as opposed to just kind of an afterthought to my attending here.
And the thing that I always run into is like, I always go through a point like, dude, I just need to graduate from high school. I've been doing this for so long. I just need to graduate from high school. But then it's like, man, I really like the new energy that the new students bring. And the new teachers, when they come in, they bring really good ideas. And people come from other places. They really respect CBC. And it really gets you fired up to be here. I mean, what's your experience?
It does. And what's cool is that, you get a snapshot of what CBC is as a student. For me, it was adapting to the new building. My freshman year, fall of '03 was when we moved in here. There were still tarps on the ground. The nice thing about being a freshman at that point is that you had no idea where you were going in the hallways, but neither did anybody else. Like if you were late to class because you got lost, you'd be lucky if the teacher was there and wasn't. So it was kind of adapting to the new building and the use of technology, trying to figure out how do we use laptops. And then you come back just 4 years after graduating, and it's worlds different. And you kind of come to see that the school is kind of a living tradition, that it kind of grows and develops. There's something organic about it. As opposed to just, the high school that I went to or that you went to, because I'm sure you saw the same thing. And even, when you came on as alumni coordinator, I'm sure it's almost a little bit of a culture shock, just getting used to all the new things and all the new programs that we have. But it's exciting. And you the more you get involved with kind of multi-year initiatives and the more you kind of see things grow and develop and, you hear things from the students that reflect that's being successful. It's just, it's a totally different perspective than I think you're prepared to have when you graduate, having only been around for 4 years.
And sure, I mean, I went to school here in the '80s, and we were never even talking about aviation programs.
Right.
And that's something that kids can do right now.
Yeah, the funny thing about that is I joke with kids, and I don't actually think it's joking that if we'd had that aviation program, I don't know that I'd be back here teaching. My goal, I decided when I was little that I was going to be a fighter pilot, and that was it. And even coming into high school, flying was something that was really, really interesting to me. So, if I had walked in as a freshman and been told, oh, here's a flight simulator and a path to ground certification, game over.
I know, even the gaming, I used to be like old school gaming, whatever. But I mean, people are winning tournaments, guys are winning large amounts of money to continue. It's a passion of the people. And again, I'm not any good at it. I don't do it myself, but I definitely respect that the school embraced it and didn't just turn it off and say, no, we're not doing it. Like we embraced it. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and that's kind of the organic thing. An organic body, a living thing, it takes things in and it takes in what's good and it kind of jettisons things that it doesn't need anymore. And, that's what schools do. I mean, esports, if you had told me, when I was here, gaming was a problem. I'm sure our teachers will remember, there was the first few weeks of freshman year before they blocked anything that was like, it was awesome, like addictinggames.net all over it, right? I can play games in school. It was the coolest thing ever. And then they figured out how to block it, and that was the end of the fun. But the kids today will never know that joy of those first 2 weeks. But,
the struggle you guys had.
But I think, to kind of come to see, okay, well, kids are playing games anyway. They're playing with their friends. It's so much more online than it was at that point. So it's collaborative, it's problem solving, it's strategy. It's a lot of things we try to teach by other means. So the fact that we can just embrace it and say, okay, you guys are playing anyway, why don't you come play at school with your brothers, develop the skills we're trying to teach you, and really learn, discipline, commitment. You got to show up to practice. You got to be on time. Your teammates are counting on you. Those are all things that translate well beyond games. And the fact that you can now get college scholarships for esports as well, there's just so much opportunity there that as opportunities like that arise, you have to take advantage. That's part of the growing nature of the school.
And you can imagine I run into alums who are still like, what are they doing? They're playing games. What kind of skills could you teach them? And you start talking about team communication and team skills and how you work with 4 people. And when you get in the corporate world, that's what you really have to do. You have to know how to communicate with coworkers and be able to work towards a common goal. Sometimes the light goes off with guys, and but a lot of times they're just like, I don't understand it. But I'm glad that the school embraced it.
Well, and think about what we teach in our athletic programs. Think about what we teach in our theater program, music program, about teamwork, about commitment, about working through things as a group. You get to a timeout and things aren't going your way. You got to look around and say, okay, what do we need to do to fix this? It's the same thing in esports. I mean, it's a different platform. You're in a chair as opposed to running on a field, but the cognitive processes, everything is the same. All the things we're trying to teach are the same. And we do that in classes too. One of the things that our students find, and that I would say is different from my time here, the amount of collaboration we do. And I don't know, when you were here, Rob, I have no idea how much group work you did. I'd be willing to bet it was little, if any, but now our students are working in groups so much as they're learning their content in their classes and their skills in their classrooms, they're learning those same things: collaboration, problem solving. What do you do when things aren't going well as a group? Same thing on the sports field, same thing in theater, same thing in esports.
I got to tell you, it's interesting because the school's changed so much, and that I'll let this alum remain nameless. When I was in high school, we were in a really boring history lesson, just really just earth numbing, And the teacher was walking through the class, and he stopped. He looked at the guy behind me, and the guy, instead of taking notes, he literally had illustrated an entire war scene. It was very intricate. It was really great. And the teacher at the time was like, "Oh, you'll never go anywhere with that." And I was like, I wonder if that guy ever became a cartoonist, So it's like, even in despite the fact that we didn't have a lot of people believed in us, we're like overcoming that. We're like, hey, we're going to show you, I'm going to go do that. So when you're in school, to trying to kind of just one up your mentors a little bit. I mean, you have to feel some of that a little bit. I mean, you're the golf coach for a little while, and that being involved with that. So talk about just be working with your mentors. That's got to be a bit of a trip.
Yeah, it's cool. You get a peek behind the curtain for sure. A lot of the things that when you're in high school, you think, oh, that's an odd rule or something like that. Now you see, oh, there's a reason for that, The being able to kind of see, you look at somebody like, I mentioned Gary Ryan earlier. He's a great example. You have him in class 1 year. For me, that was junior year. For most guys, that's probably the case. And you see, oh, like this is how we do English and history here. But then you kind of see how it grows from the other side, and you see the process that led to this point. And what really starts to emerge is the passion for educating and the passion for improving the way we educate that our teachers have, that you just don't get a glimpse of when you see the snapshot of a junior year in high school. You don't see the multi-year improvement process. You don't see, we used to do it this way, but it was leading to this result, which we didn't want. So we shifted it. We spent our summer redesigning it so it would create this. That's a totally different perspective on education. There's so much to learn there, just about persistence, about kind of perfecting your craft, and the importance of making sure that what we do is the best we can be.
And, I want to give you some opportunity to talk about, the LaSalle Information Program and the religion program, because again, it's something so dear to so many alums. And again, alums I talk to, they don't know lay teachers. All they had were brothers. And again, where we have one brother who's living now on the campus, and that's it. What's that challenge? And that challenge is to keep that alive. And that kind of falls on guys like you. So what are you doing to kind of keep that alive with the students and even with the alums?
Well, a couple things I'll say to that. One, I think that while I do wish kids had the opportunity to interact more with brothers, and I wish our staff had the opportunity to interact more with brothers. I mean, they have for a long time been sort of the safe, what's the right word? The keepers of the tradition. And we were all inspired by them. I'm sure you in the same way that I was. I had Brother David's sophomore English was just an eye-opening experience. And I think that while I regret the kids don't have that, I think a lot of the things that we do that are LaSallian are kind of so baked into the school culture that you don't even notice them. It's just second nature. I mentioned the collaborative work. If you're in a group and realize that one guy really has a talent for editing, another guy has a talent for filming things and maybe working with the audio side of things, or another guy really absorbs content and can kind of piece things together and put a story, like there's something authentically LaSallian about recognizing that, hey, this is your gift. It's different from mine. Let's see what we can create together. So I think there's a lot of that. The other side is that talking to a lot of brothers, I remember in 2017, I participated in a district days meeting up at Lewis University in Romeoville outside Chicago with a number of brothers as well as lay partners like myself, just kind of about how things are going in the Midwest district and where they're going from here. And one of the topics that was brought up, and at my table, it was mostly brothers with a couple of us partners, maybe 3 of us. And the topic was, what do we do, if there comes a time where their brothers are so scarce we never see them, or if there are no more brothers? And for us, that was a tragic thought, the LaSallian world without brothers. But the brothers at the table, they said that as long as kids are being educated in the LaSallian tradition, that's what matters. The institution of the brothers, although it's so important, and although I hope we can keep it going, and there are vocations, things are looking good. At the end of the day, it's about kids being educated according to the example of St. John Baptist de La Salle. And that's the single most important thing, more than the number of brothers or lay partners at a campus. And I think that our lay teachers buy into that. Following World War II, what's interesting is that the number of brothers in the United States, it was in real decline, and it's lower than it was at that point. So the second half of the 20th century, it just went down. But what was happening is that educational demand was going up following World War II. You have the GI Bill and all the families, middle-class families looking to spend money on private education. So demand for secondary education in the country was on the rise. And so the brothers saw an opportunity. Hey, we can involve more people in this charism. So you see the shift away from terms like brothers and into the LaSallian family kind of emerges during this time. So there was a conscious decision that since the goal is educating in the salvation of as many kids as possible, if that takes bringing in non-brothers, like, let's do it, because the number of brothers isn't what this is all about in the first place. It's about education and salvation. So, I think we've seen that. And I think there's a lot of ways for educators that aren't brothers to get involved in LaSallian formation here at CBC, at the district level, with the Midwest, regional level, even international levels.
So 2 things that I get from alums a lot are, that CBC's always been this melting pot. But even in a religious standpoint, that I came to CBC, I wasn't Catholic, and I was able to find Catholicism through the brothers or through the examples. And then also, the fact that, building better Catholics is something that we're charged with. And the Catholic Church is really going through some struggles in the pandemic, and online church hasn't helped things.
Right.
And, how do you bring all that stuff together to continue that, to really make these students understand the presence of God? And that's probably a big question. I get it.
Right. Yeah, but, that is. How much time do we have?
Yeah.
And that is kind of the question. We mentioned that education is ultimately about salvation, not just in its eternal sense, but also in having, the opportunity for a successful life here. But when it comes to connection with religion, I think a lot of times it's about connection with a community or connection with somebody who kind of embodies what it means to be a person of faith. And that's one of the things that we as educators try to be. Because talking about faith is one thing, but seeing an example day in, day out of what the faith looks like, whether that's a brother or whether that's a lay teacher, like, that's really where a decision about faith is going to be made. And we just lost on Sunday. I don't know exactly when this is going to be released, but it's Wednesday, and Sunday we lost. It was graduation day. We lost Mr. Charles Beach, member of our religion department since 2008. And he's a great example. Students are coming out of the woodwork just telling stories about the kind of man he was, and that he embodied what it meant to be a person of faith, a person of faith who doesn't reject people because they share a different faith, who actually embraces them, wants to learn from them, wants to kind of grow together as a community with them. And I think that that's a great model for us to follow, the model that he set. And I think it's a challenge for us as teachers, to make sure that we are that example. that students can see and maybe find some connection with. So it's not just an abstract concept of faith or the existence of God, that it's really rooted in relationships.
Sure. And like I said, as you get into the 70s and 80s, more of the role models become the football coaches or a particular English teacher. And then certainly when your era, it was, more of these brown boots sort of guys who were, celebrating their 30th or 40th years of teaching and stuff. So you definitely. So just to kind of wrap this up again, Tom, this really was a great conversation. I appreciate you taking time, and I hope that you'll come back and we can continue really talking about the LaSallian programs that we're doing here, because I know they're very important to the alums, and it's important that we communicate to the alums what we're doing in this area, because it affects all of us. So again, I hope you'll come back. But I want to give you an opportunity to say, what's been some of the weird things that you've experienced coming back to CBC? I mean, as a student, you're a ball of energy, and like you have to see some bizarre things, I'm sure.
Yeah. You don't always remember that kind of stuff, though. I mean, you learn to stop asking questions when you walk down the hall, and you see a couple kids filming a project where they're like chasing each other around the building. It's like, they're working on a project. Like, I'm just going to walk away and trust that learning is occurring. It's always fun. Rochelle Schneider, and the French teacher, she'll do a murder mystery assignment. So she'll have students walking around asking if anybody witnessed anything suspicious. And it's like, what is going on here? But it's that kind of stuff that keeps it fun. It's the unexpected. And the boys are always coming up with new ways to amaze us, usually in positive ways. But it's a lot of fun, and you never know what a day is going to bring. You might walk into school thinking, okay, what I'm going to do is prep my lesson, teach. I'm going to do a little grading, answer some emails. And before you know it, you're pushing a barbecue grill up the back parking lot to get ready for a barbecue that is happening over the weekend. It's just, there's always something new going on. And, if anybody's kind of thinking about getting involved in high school education, I will say that no 2 days are alike, and that's kind of one of the ways we keep going.
Exactly. And again, I think that we're so lucky to have young teachers like you, and really guys who want to be back and part of what we do, because that's what makes the school so special and so diverse, and all the different opinions. So again, I think you're doing a great job. Got to ask, so you recently got married? I
did back in November.
So is your wife sick of CBC yet? Because usually it takes about 6 months, and she's like, oh, I can't hear it anymore.
We're not there quite yet. But I think it was COVID wedding, so we were able to work through a lot. But no, she's been great, and I actually. She's been around to help with a few things already. She helped us with the freshman welcome mass, and so she's been around being helpful as well, which is awesome. Makes it even better.
Congratulations to you, man, and
Thank you.
Good luck. And again, enjoy your summer, man. You've earned it. It's been a crazy year, but you guys definitely earned it this year.
Yep, can't wait. Thanks, Rob.
So I'm going to put you on hold, and we'll catch up with everyone next time.